Okay, well, I'm still considering it, so maybe I'll reach out to you. Do you have places that you recommend for lasering?
Yeah, I could probably pull out something. Okay.
This whole tattoo world is so fascinating to me. So here's my next question. I'll relate this to the hair thing. I'm not the person who is like, if I get a bad haircut, I cry for days. Like, whatever, it's going to grow back. I don't really care. So I'm the type of person who will go into somebody who cuts hair and I'll be like, you know what? Do what you want. And They love that because there's artistry behind it and they get to be creative. And I imagine, because you're an artist, you're not just tattooing, you are actually creating art. I imagine if somebody walked into you and said, hey, just do whatever you want, you must be over the moon by that.
Well, kind of. It's half and half. Somebody walks in and say, do whatever you want, and I'm all like, well, you have to give me some kind of something, to go with, somewhere to start, and then I'll take it from there.
Yeah.
Because if you want what I just want to do, you're going to end up with like some weird shit that doesn't make sense. And there's a butt with a trumpet and all this shit coming out of it. And that's what I do. I do a lot of weird art, but, if they just give me, I want a skull and a spider web and okay, I'll take it from there. Just give me a couple ideas. If you come in and just say, just freestyle or, whatever, free-handed, then,
it's just creative.
It just gives me a mental block of, you're going to do that, do whatever you want. Okay. I'll do whatever I want, draw whatever you want. And then, I have a drawing. This is what I drew. Oh, well, can we change this? It's like, well, you just asked me what
do whatever I want. So I remember, this was funny. I was just having this conversation, with my friend the other day when I was telling her that you were coming on the podcast, and I was like, oh, you should call Greg. And she had this, I think, kind of idea. And she goes, he's so good, but his style, and I think she's looking at things that you've done, like, that's not my style. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not my style either. Like, the typical tattoo, the one that you do the most of, is absolutely nothing like anything that you've done on me. But what I love is that I've given you something to start with, and you've been able to tweak it and make it even better. But it's more like, I'm the person who comes in and is like, no, this is what I'm looking for. You've, even with this one here on my forearm, you kind of like tweaked it a little bit. And you're like, oh, hey, what if we do this and what if we do that? But generally, it was a style that I'm interested in. So I told her, I said, I looked at one of his books the first time I went in, and I saw a tattoo that he did. Generally, the style was not mine, but I saw that he was so good with some really fine lines in there. And that's what I was looking for, something.
Right.
So I could tell that your technique would work for me. It wasn't necessarily like your artist or your style, and so that's what I keep trying to tell people. It's like, just because he's done a host of things that you wouldn't necessarily have that style, it doesn't mean he can't do something different.
And, I do everything, but I think I've talked to you about this before. I try to, on Instagram or whatever, post, more stuff that, bolder lines and, heavier shading and maybe more traditional stuff or Japanese stuff to try to attract more of that to do, because I enjoy it, but I do everything. And it's not to say I don't enjoy doing really tweaky fine line stuff, or I could do, pretty much everything. I try to steer away from portraits though. I don't fuck around with that too much.
Oh, with like, it's a big thing right now. People are doing portraits with all the shading and like.
That's just kind of, out of my wheelhouse in a way. I've done portraits.
Yeah.
But maybe I should rephrase. It's too stressful for me to tattoo that on somebody to make it look exactly like the picture that they brought in. I don't need that stress in my life.
Totally. And that's legitimate. That's a legitimate reason for sure.
Last time I did a Bob Dylan portrait, and it'll went Bob Marley. Then what do we do there? Come on.
Oh, it's so funny. I don't know. It's great. I love the work that you do.
Thanks.
You, it sounds very strange, but when I'm on the table and you're tattooing is one of the few moments that I feel very meditative in my life. Meditation for me is not something that I'm good at, but I think it's because, it was when you were doing the one on my ribs where I remember you telling me this is going to hurt like fuck. And so I came in, I had my headphones, I had a playlist all picked out, and I knew I was just going to dig into my playlist and
this is going to hurt like fuck playlist.
Yeah. And so I know. And so I remember being about literally probably 5 minutes into it and being like, oh my God, like even the playlist is not helping. And so I thought, this is what I started to do. This is the PSA for anybody out there who's never done a tattoo. Every time that you put the needle to the skin, I breathed out. And every time you pulled the needle off, I breathed in.
Right.
And you were so methodical. Like it became a rhythm.
Well, yeah, because I was going with your breathing and
so
stuff.
The two of us, I think, were working really well together. And actually, it wasn't, in the end, it wasn't as bad like as the one on the lower back, even on the shoulder. The shoulder was worse because I felt like I was like, oh, and then I thought, wow, I've never been able to meditate in my life, but here I am getting tattooed.
You're kind of forced to do it. What else are you going to do? You're laying there and you're just like, okay, I can't move. All I can do is breathe. So let's focus on that.
And also the headphones helped because there are other people in the space, right? And other people having conversations. And sure. I tend to be very nosy and listen to people. And,
well, I'm a professional eavesdropper.
Sometimes there are funny things being said. Yeah. And like if you start giggling while somebody's got a needle to your skin, it doesn't work very well. So the headphones help to me just like tune out everything. But I often wondered if when I walk into your space and I'm like, hey, Greg, I want you to do another one. You like in the back, you're like, pretend you roll your eyes and you're like, oh shit, she's going to come with something that I don't even get to be creative because she's literally like, do this exactly like this.
No way. I love tattooing, and I love the process of it and the art of it. And tattooing has made me learn so much about art in general, just from people bringing stuff in. I mean, how else would I know of this random tribe in Africa unless somebody brought in this artwork and said, hey, this is from some random tribe in Africa that I want tattooed on me. It's like, oh, so then I do a little research on it and I learned all about this really cool stuff, just from people bringing stuff in. And that's like the coolest thing about it for me. It's not like I'm looking at it and God, this sucks. What the fuck is this? It comes from somewhere and I research it and it's always awesome, so I get in the flow of it and I'm creating something and, I'm tattooing it on somebody forever and I better be into it. Yeah. It's
that's a good way. Yeah.
And tattooing has been like a, unintentional learning, as far as art and what people bring in their stories and stuff. And, I take that and, I put it in the tattoo and I think that's what's so cool about it. And that's why I've been doing it for 30 years because, it's just awesome. It's not.
What's can you tell me like, in all of the 30 years, is there one tattoo that stands out for you that is like, this is the most freaking amazing thing I've ever done?
I have a really good friend and client, Ed Garvey. He just recently moved, unfortunately, but I'm working on a bodysuit on him. So he came, he came to me, but I knew his wife from back in the day. He says, my husband wants to get a bodysuit. And I was like, yeah, whatever.
Wait, what's a bodysuit? Like all the way, all of it?
From neck to ankles to wrists.
Okay.
We started with a back piece. He had one tattoo and we started with a back piece that goes from his neck to, the backs of his knees. And I was all up in his butt crack, if you're curious. And, and then we did that and then we did, each sleeve.
Okay. Wait, let's step back to the butt crack.
Okay.
The reason you have to go into the butt crack is why?
Just for fun, I
guess. But nobody's going to see it.
Just kidding. Well, as far as the art goes, I mean, if you're standing up, then it's going to have to fold in a certain way for it to look proper.
Oh, okay. Got it.
You just can't go around the butt crack because then it'll just be this like weird.
Yeah, you just got this blank space.
Strip.
Yes, that's right.
It's like, it's like a.
Got it.
It doesn't make sense. But, so then you get really intimate, and get to know these. I got to know him really well. And then we started on his sides. And then the last thing we did was his legs. And he was like, hey, just line out both of my legs and we'll just hit either one, as we go. And I was okay. So I lined him out. And then we got pretty much as far as the shading. And then he had to move, because of this whole thing. And he got laid off and they were living in Oakland. And, now they're in South Carolina. So.
Oh. Wait, so how's it going to get finished?
I will probably go out there at some point or he will come here.
Yeah. I was going to say, after all that work, you can't let somebody else pick it up where you left off.
For sure. No, nobody else will finish it. but, it just, it's cool. It's just one of those things. And that he was so nervous about telling me, I got to move, and I was like, dude, it's all good, man. We'll finish it down the line.
Fix it.
I started working on him in, I think 2007. So it's taken forever. It took 2 years to do his back, and then, he's been with me through the course of 5 or 6 different shops. So, in San Francisco.
That's great to have a client like that.
He's awesome.
Seems I love
Ed.
it.
Hi, Ed.
Ed. Ed what?
Ed Garvey.
Garvey. We're going to give a shout out to Ed Garvey.
He'd really dig that.
So you opening up the name of your partner?
Nick Roden?
Nick.
Yeah, Nick's opening up. I'm just,
when is he going to be able to open up? When's he going to be able to open up after this COVID thing?
I guess he was going to do the inspections today with the fire department to make sure that everything's okay with just, disabled and, might have to put a ramp in. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But he's already passed one inspection, has the fire department inspection. And then, the health department, he's first on the list to get inspected. So once he does that, then once we feel comfortable, we're going to have to figure out, what protocol is going to happen where, either he works one day and I work one day, or it's like a split shift or, because it's not going to go back to normal, for a long time, maybe until a vaccine comes around.
So, yeah, it's so hard. Like all the business owners are stressed. I mean, everybody's stressed. I get it. But, as a business owner myself, it's like every day it feels like there's another, so for example, I feel like we were able to open last Monday. And then something came up and they're like, oh no, you can't open yet. And now I'm thinking hopefully next Monday. Right. And there's something, it's maddening. It was actually easier when we were just shut and I didn't see an end in sight to that, even though there's a stress that comes with that too. Right.
Yeah.
And now I'm like
some kind of anxiety.
Yeah.
Like, we gotta.
And now my wheels, I'm like revving the engine and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. I'm like so ready. And like they just snap their fingers and they're like, okay, you can open today. And it's like, great. But when is that going to be? So it does feel kind of stressful, as a business owner, but at the same time, you want to do what's right.
Absolutely.
For you and for the client. Like there's nothing I would rather do than to be safe. So if that meant us closing for longer, but for you, for example, let's just say you guys open up and you're doing a piece that's 4 or 6 hours sitting, say, and you're wearing a mask that whole time.
I'm not looking forward to it.
It's going to be hard, huh? Yeah. I mean, it's going to be an adjustment.
Sure.
It's not that you wouldn't
actually have a big face shield that I could put on too.
Maybe that's better.
Because I work with metal, but it was like something that I had bought that I never used.
Right.
That was just in my workshop.
Yep.
And, it's a huge face shield. So I don't know if I'd use that, but then who would hear me tell stories and bullshit with people?
I know. That's kind of the fun part.
It takes that's the whole reason. It's like, you're trapped. I'm going to just bullshit at you
Maybe
for
you could put one of those old time. You remember those like Freddy Krueger masks that have the hole right where they're like, so you can
the
hear
hockey mask, or it's kind of like a Jason mask. Yeah.
I know. It's just, we kind of have to make light about it a little bit. Like nothing is going to be the same anymore. Right. And we have to just figure out, that's the thing that I keep trying to tell people and myself. Stop sitting here and trying to figure out every single detail moving forward, because until you get into the situation, until I open the doors here and people start walking in, like I feel like I have thought of everything, but there's going to be real life where real humans walk into the building and there are human nature like habits that people have and ways that people exist in the world. And so all of the things that I think they're going to touch right now that I'm covering or I'm making, maybe there's going to be something else. I'm like, oh, fuck, I didn't think about that. So I'm trying to give myself a little bit of a break and be like, okay, you can't solve all the problems until the day you open the door and you see the habits of people and you see, what their tendencies are or whatever and how you can.
And that's the thing with, with tattooing, we've been doing that all along, and we've always had our bloodborne pathogens, and we have a certain protocol that we do when we set up a station or deal with a spill or anything like that. We know how to deal with that. The only thing different that's going to happen with tattooing is the mask. Yeah, because we've already been doing all this all along.
That's a good point.
So we're and that's the thing. I don't want to wear a mask, but I will. Yeah. When we're able to get back, and when my gut feeling
Feels
says
like
it's
the right
okay.
time.